All right, I'm back. There's an unfortunate thing. I'm eating some chips because I'm hungry. That's probably some kind of huge no-no on TV. There's an unfortunate thing that happens with iPhones. If you're using the YouTube app to stream and a phone call comes in, it immediately terminates the stream and breaks the app. And like if you decline the call, it won't reconnect to the stream. The stream freezes. I don't know why it does that, but it does. And unfortunately, it done that just now. And Teresa has this uncanny ability to randomly call me in the middle of a live stream every single time. It just seems like it. Unless she's here and she knows it, she'll call me every time. Hi, Jacob. Hi, Adrian. Sorry. Happens every time, it seems like. All right, we're back. I'm having paleo puffs. They're actually quite good. I grabbed some snacks while I was out. But yeah, I was starving to death. Those things are really good. But yeah, that Z9 is going to be a monster. It really is. I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what it can actually do once it gets out in the real world. Boss lady causes trouble. Yep, every single time. She had no idea I was live streaming. Called me to talk something about the business for a minute. But it's the way it is, I guess. Adrian said yesterday I was taking photos on my garage with the 50 and the 35. I left the 35 on the car chest because that one wasn't intended to be moved. Oh no, I think I see where this is going. Do you recommend keeping lenses in temperature controlled case? I recommend keeping them in a climate controlled house. Storing them in the case doesn't seem to bother them for me. Oh no. Did you find your lens, Adrian? Did it destroy it? Your 35 was already on the fritz because it had taken a ride down a staircase, if I remember right. But yeah, if you leave them in humid environments, lenses tend to grow fungus and haze, and I think I've got a couple that, because I've left them stored in less than ideal environments, they have gotten some fungus in them. So I've bought some tools to dismantle them properly with. I've got the special spanner that's on the Trammell style spanner device to unscrew the rings with, and I've got the rubber cones to unscrew stuff with and to take it apart, and I've got some micro screwdrivers finally to get to the little bitty screws. But yeah, I got a couple of lenses I'm gonna take apart and try and clean the fungus out of them. I plan to video them, maybe time lapse them, depends on how it goes. After 10 minutes, he called me and he tells you that I forgot them. Somehow they didn't fall off after a 10-minute ride. Wow. Talk about the camera gods were looking down on you. Woo, that was close. Oh, man. If that had been me, they'd have fell off right out here where my dog Jericho is, and he loves to chew on anything. He found Aaron's Ravini Labs light meter that he put on one of his film cameras and chewed it to little pieces. We were sitting up here on the porch, and I could hear him crunching on something. And I was like, that was odd. Couldn't find it. Next day, I just thought I walked through where he collects his toys in the yard. Sure enough, I found the circuit board and the little pieces of the housing. He'd chewed it to nothing. That lens just wanted to be free. I also reversed the camera so that now the shifting to read the comments is here and the camera is here. But yeah, I recommend keeping, if you can, keep your lenses in a low humidity environment. Bass Angler says Aaron is a cat owner now. No, Aaron is the human that a cat owns now. That's the way cats are. You become their human. They adopt you. I have both of my cats are right out here. And I don't know why, but the yellow cat, who is about 70% feral, is on the porch. He's just kind of chilling up here. He normally doesn't come up on the porch unless he's hungry. But there's cat food over there for him. But he's not eating it. He's just sitting over there watching me. Like, I can show you. Look at this. That's a little unnerving. Let's set this back here. There we go. Let's see. Free ride. Know anything about X-Acto lenses? I've never heard of them. I've heard of some pretty bizarre names of lenses that the Japanese used for their like third-party manufacturing. I've never heard of X-Acto. Is that European or is that Japanese? The Russians used a bunch of odd name lenses too, you know, but there was only like 2 or 3 brands of the Russian ones. There wasn't a lot of them. You got the Helios and the Jupiters, and they're all pretty much the same. But with Japan, they had a bunch of little like micro brands. I've got a couple of them in there, and they're okay quality. The coatings were kind of minimal, so the coatings aren't wonderful, so that they get flare issues pretty easily. But other than that, they're pretty good glass most of the time. You get a couple of them that'll be duds, but not many. And sometimes even the duds can be made to work well if you just have like the right conditions. Use diffuse light flash or something. You can still even use them. And I find that low contrast lenses, like you'll find some lenses they'll be classified as poor quality and they'll have low contrast. Low contrast a lot of times can be fixed with editing software now. I mean, you have a contrast slider, you have a tone curve that you can adjust. There's 100 ways to put contrast in an image and gain some of that back. So if you don't have like a lot of money, you can shoot the low contrast glass and just fix it in post. I mean, you're gonna edit your image anyway, just add a little more contrast, put it back in there. Now, of course, you do lose, there is some loss of image quality in that because the micro contrast isn't in there, but it's not something that's going to cause you a big problem. You know, you can still get interesting photos. Jump on that Topaz train is what Bass Angler says. Yeah, Topaz has its place. I mean, I can see. It does a pretty good job at what it does. I don't worry too much about noise. When you're finding noise at ISO 100, you're looking for it. I mean, to me, it's a non-issue. I'm not hunting for noise anymore. I used to. Like I said, back in the day, I complained about the noise on my D810. It has shadow noise issues. Like Aaron says, it has this weird purple shadow noise thing it does. But for the most part, I don't have a problem with it. It has to be a pretty odd photo to generate shadow noise that bothers me. Well, we got an airplane. Bass Angler says it's a sore spot with me, but that's my opinion. From across the Pacific, wow! I'm looking through the reading glasses to read your name. No Victoria. No Victoria. Are you? I'm curious to know where you're at. You can use the image profile to kind of fix it. That's true. You can set it in the camera. You can add contrast in camera now. I always forget about that. That there's a lot of functions in the camera that if you want to like shoot straight out of camera JPEGs and not have to edit, You can, like Ken Rockwell is a master of in-camera settings. He likes to shoot JPEG, and he'll go in and add a bunch of saturation and add contrast in camera, and he gets his image right out of the camera like he likes them, and it saves time. It saves a lot of time. I mean, now once again, if I was getting commercially paid for the work, I would have as high quality glass as I could afford, and I would post process all the images. But if they're just personal pleasure photos or street photography that I'm just shooting for my own benefit, I shoot straight out of camera JPEG and save my time. And a lot of times there might, out of a whole memory card of photos, there might be one or two that I want to go to the trouble to edit in software. And I'll pull them into a separate folder, and then I'll edit just those. And that way I don't have to weed through all of them, you know. A lot of times there won't be but one. And it saves me a bunch of time in editing. Now, I don't get very fluent in my editing software because of that. I mean, if y'all haven't seen Heather's workflow / tutorial video she did where she edits her landscape photos, she does some stuff that I didn't know you could do. Like, she does color grading on the photos. It was pretty in depth. How she paints in color here and there and all sorts of, like, adds this and that for different time of day effect. She's thought this through a lot, and it was way past what I do for a photo. Like, I didn't even know some of that was available. It was enlightening to watch her edit a photo. I'm living in Japan now, collecting old Nikon lenses. Nice, dude. That's where all the good Nikon glass is at. Anytime I buy a used Nikkor lens, I try to buy them from Japan because they take phenomenal care of their lenses there. A lens there that's rated an 8 will be a 12 in the United States. I don't know what it is about Americans. They're rough on their gear. You buy a lens from Japan, it'll typically be well cared for. All of my really nice, like my 105 f2.5 I bought, and my 28 2.8. I know both of them for sure. I think my 200 millimeter f4 micro Nikkor came from Japan. I'm pretty sure. I didn't get a case with it, so I didn't get all the accessories. I just got the lens. But that, if you like macro, that's a lens that you need. Let's see. Bass Angler says, I want what my eye sees. Yeah, and I don't get that out of my cameras a lot of times. And that's what Heather was saying when she did her tutorial, was the image that she took out of the camera didn't look like what she saw when she saw the photo. So she's trying to adjust it to where it looked like it did when she took the picture. Because, you know, the camera is trying to balance the image, and it's trying to get the, you know, it's trying to meter it a certain way, and it's doing the best it can with what it has. But it wasn't able to render, like you seen the before and after photo at the end, and the after photo was gorgeous, and the before photo looked like something I would cull. You know, it was amazing to watch her take that image from what looked like an underexposed bridge and turn it into this beautiful sunset photo of the Market Street Bridge. It was incredible when she got done with it. So yeah, it's a skill that's worth developing if you're really into photography. Let's see if I missed something. Oh, okay. Hassan says, not sure. Looking at some online now. I have a muzzler I'm looking at also. Never heard of muzzler either. Me either. That's an odd name. It's like I got one while I was in Asheville. If you ever go to Asheville, North Carolina, there's a camera shop there that's like an old vintage camera shop. And it's in this little strip mall. It's a camera store, and it's like Mecca for photographers. Every kind of, I mean, they got so many vintage lenses that they have big totes with all the surplus ones just piled in it loose. and you just root around in them totes until you find something you want. They've got a bunch of good ones sorted by brand in glass cases, so you can find them pretty quickly. And then they have like manual focus, and they have autofocus on the other side, and it's just they've been in business what appears to be for 50 years, and it's just an amalgamation of 50 years of buying and selling local photography gear. It was cool. If I had the name of it right on my top of my head, I'd tell you, but it was worth the trip. I bought the, it's not a Rokinon, what is it? Not a Fujica. It's made by, it's like a Rokinon. It's made by Ricoh. It's called Rokinon was the brand on the glass, and I think I got a 55 f 3.5. And I got it for like $20 or something. It was super cheap. And it turned out to be a nice little lens. I did a video on it. There's a review about it. But they had all sorts of stuff. And the only reason I picked that lens was because it had an M42 mount, and I knew I had adapters that would fit it. But they had a bunch of stuff, all kinds of crap. Got to go to Asheville now. Yeah, it was a cool little camera shop. I bought it last year when me and Aaron linked up for our fall color photos trip. The one where we went and did the photos of the elk. And not the one where I did the night photos in Bryson City, but where we went to Maggie Valley. And I got there before he did, and I had a few hours to kill. So I just got on Google Maps and searched for camera shops, and it dropped a pin on one in Asheville. And I looked at the pictures, and dude, it seriously had, there's no telling how much camera gear's in that little building. It was so full of stuff. So I just rode over there. Yeah, it was incredible. Yeah, if you get a chance, it's worth your look. It's worth a shot. But you can see like all the they've got pictures. You can quickly tell which camera store I'm talking about. Randy Meyer says post-processing work for him is almost as fun as making the image. And it was for me too for a while. When I first got my D810, here's a little story about that. I was at the time using Lightroom, and I was the monthly payer guy. We had it also for the machine shop, so since I had access to it, I just used it. And I would shoot everything in RAW, and then I would process everything through Lightroom, everything. And I would individual edit pretty much all the photos, and it would take hours and hours. But I liked it at the time. And I got to looking back, and the images that were taken were meh on a good day. You know, they were mediocre photos, and I was spending all this time doing these adjustments to these photos, and no one looks at them. You know, I don't even look at them again. I haven't even went through those photos in years. And it's like, why am I spending all this time editing these photos when I really just want to edit the really good ones? So, like, when I go do street, yeah, I'll pick normally the best one or two, that the ones that I was really happy that I got, and I'll edit those. And I'm saving them in a different folder for a project. But for the most part, editing to me is almost tedious. And I just ain't super into it. I kind of got where it ain't fun to me. You know, I was doing so many product photos for the shop for a while, and it was, you know, I was doing them like on white backgrounds and having to do all this post-processing work to get them properly exposed and all that sort of stuff, and get them sized appropriately for the website and things. Finally got all that done, learned how to do it, and kind of get efficient at it. And now I don't have Lightroom anymore, and I don't miss it. I use Exposure for my basic Lightroom kind of photos. Exposure is really cool. Aaron turned me on to Exposure, and it allows you to add a editing mask super easy. It's almost like brushes in Lightroom. You know, you can mask in an area with a brush and make an edit on that super easy. Exposure does the same thing with little layers. You can add layers onto the edit you have and then mask off parts of it based on a whole plethora of masking choices. Like you can mask based on luminosity or color or shadow, or you can paint it. You can there's all sorts of masking choices that you can make, and so it makes like correcting a underexposed image, or maybe you've got one that's properly exposed but you just want to bring the shadows up a little. You can just gauge it for the shadows only, and it's super easy. Once you do it once or twice, it's almost addictive. But yeah, I like the whole exposure experience. It's actually really good user interface experience. But I don't have, and like as far as Photoshop goes, what I do that Photoshop is good at, that's where you do custom weird, like you erase stuff and you paste things into the photo that weren't there. Like that's how I make my thumbnails, how I put text on the picture. I use GIMP for that, and it works fine. But yeah, I don't have a need for Adobe products now because of that, and it works. But I just kind of fell out of it. Randy says, if it's tedious, you're doing it wrong. You're right. I must have been, because it got tedious. If it takes longer than 15 seconds to edit, I'm done, Bass Angler. That needs to go on a t-shirt. Adrian says, I want a 35 millimeter anamorphic lens. That way you get a similar angle of view to the human eye. Ooh, them anamorphic lenses, they give them away. You can cheat anamorphic look now. They have figured out how to do it with a filter. Somebody's making an anamorphic filter. Jacob Jerk says he likes the look of film as well. It doesn't need to be as precisely as I see it. That's right. Fuji is imaging. Yeah, I've never been good at post-processing workflow. I never learned how to batch process well. Not to mention my batch photos never really batched well, because I just never learned that in depth, because I wouldn't lock down my settings so that batch processing would work properly. Is probably what it is. It just never happened for me that way. I always end up doing an individual edit on every photo, it seemed like. The white balance would be a little different or something like that. But yeah, that's a thing that if I was to learn to do it better, it would probably be a lot more fun. But I do enjoy it with exposure. It's a lot more fun on that program for me for some reason. I can see people doing things with Lightroom that I didn't know it would do. I didn't know you could do that color grading stuff on it. That's something I do with DaVinci Resolve. Got into that powdered red pepper. Ooh, that wasn't good. Excuse me there. With DaVinci Resolve, I'll do super light edits on the photos I show on there. I'll put a slight S-curve on them a lot of times, and I'll bring the shadows up and the highlights down some. You can do that real easy with their color correction tool. What's normally meant for video, you can apply it to stills as well, and it lets me do little simple basic edits. You can crop with it some, but it's kind of painful. It's not near as simple as cropping the image ahead of time, so I don't do much cropping with it. Right. But yeah, that's a lot. When you see photos in the video, 99% of the time I've edited them in DaVinci Resolve. There's a guy, Jamie Windsor. He's so good managing Adobe. He had done some videos on his channel on some tricks and helpful stuff. I like Jamie Windsor's videos. He's a master at videography too. When you watch one of his videos, how he builds the video, it has to take 2 weeks to make that video because of the way he does it. He'll write a script. You can tell it's a written script because it's clean all the way through. It's scripted, very well scripted. And then the video follows the script perfectly. He's good at he's really good at what he does. Way better than me. This is good for me, mainly because once this stream is done, I'm done with it. I don't have to post-process edit this stream. All I gotta do is find a suitable background, and this will do. have something to talk about, and then get started, you know. But it's kind of funny that these are the crudest form of YouTube video because there's zero editing functionality. You just get to put descriptor information in it and go on about your day. But yeah, Jamie Windsor's a real good YouTuber. So is Sean Tucker. I like both of them. They're very entertaining to watch because their videos are so well done. They're both very good videographers too. And it's like Peter McKinnon. He claims he's a photographer doing video. If you watch much of Pete's stuff, he talks about how he's not really a videographer, but he's a photographer number one. But his videography is very, very good. So I think I think he sells himself a little short. He's just good at it. This cat's over here staring at me. Randy says, do you use recipes with the Fuji? Let's see. Let's juice it up. I think it's this button. Yeah. I use Velvia. It's a white square. It says Velvia right there. I use Velvia. I like Velvia. And I also use, I think it's Classic Chrome. I like Classic Chrome. And these are all the ones built into the camera. And Eterna. Eterna's cool. And then I've got Acros with the R filter and Monochrome with the R filter. You can see, well, I don't know if you can tell it or not. They both have the red filtering added. And people don't know that you can do this, but once you pick these, if you arrow over, then you can actually adjust the yellow, red, or green filtering on these individually, and it gives you some additional editing functions. And I like those. But as far as the little recipes that people build, and then and where they go into the camera settings and adjust it to simulate this or that, you know, the Kodachrome recipe, I don't do any of those. Those in the camera are plenty for me. And I'm not super deep into that. Do you follow Fuji X Weekly? No, I don't. I didn't know they existed. I'm on a Fuji users group on Facebook, and they talk about the recipes on there pretty regular. People, they'll share what they've built and what they've come up with that tries, and then they'll even do. It's a pretty good user group if you're into the recipe thing. I'll try and figure out which one it is that I'm in, because they talk about how, like, somebody will build a recipe trying to simulate a kind of film, and they'll show a film photo and then their recipe, and it won't be right, and they'll say, you know, what can we do to get these right, because they can't get them to cross over exactly, and they'll hash it out, and a lot of times they'll figure it out. But it's interesting that people are that into that with the Fujifilm cameras. There's a lot of it. All them old film stocks pretty much have a Fuji recipe now. Let's see. Ah, the hat. Hello there. A very pleasant surprise to see a stream while I'm awake. Well, yeah. Yeah, this whole idea of doing a live stream in the middle of the day was so that the people across the Atlantic could actually get in on one before bedtime. Glad you're here. Yeah, I'm in a Leica SL user group, which is those three bodies, a CL user group, and the CL user group uses a lot more adapted glass than the SL. The SL's people typically only use L glass or SL lenses, or they'll use adapted M lenses. And I adapt vintage lenses to my SL. Um, I've got 3 or 4 vintage Leica lenses. They're R mount because the R mounts are really nice and they're big enough to fit my hand. I don't like the M lenses mainly because they're so small. I just ain't into the M lenses. I'm just not a M shooter. I've tried to like them, and I can't deal with that optical viewfinder. Not now. Not after using electronic viewfinders. The CL is like a miniature M with an EVF, and I like the EVF in it. So, but that's why I have an SL2 and a CL is because they both have EVFs. Yeah, the hat said I had a friend that he had a friend that um, uh, said he had the same complaint about the M lenses. They're just tiny. And the lens I've got on my CL right now is a little tiny lens, and I'm playing with it, but it probably won't stay on the camera because it's just. I mean, it makes the camera compact. It does that, yeah, but it's almost too small. I like a little more tactile feedback from my lens. That's why I think I like the Pentax lenses so much. The Pentax lenses are very tactile, the way they feel. They're like, the Nikkor lens is the same way. They're a very tactile lens. Brian Andrews says, you ever consider Lumix L-mount bodies? No, I haven't. I have looked at the Panasonic cameras just once or twice since I've been into photography. Panasonic makes some nice cameras. That S1 is a really nice machine. But it seems like theirs are geared more towards video. It's like they have so much video power. You can shoot stills with them, true enough. It's just that it seems to me that they're more video centric, or they're targeting that kind of crowd more heavily. But I've never really considered a Lumix body. And I've got a couple of friends that shoot them. An industry professional that I'm friends with, he loves his little Lumix. His whole kit fits in a tiny little bag, body and 3 or 4 lenses. He had a whole suite of lenses in the camera. It was in a little tiny bag. So, and he flew with it. So basically he had a computer bag and his camera gear went inside his computer bag, so that, because he was a staff writer for a publication, and he could take and get all of his still photos, and it would shoot video too. I don't remember which one it was. It was a GH something, but he really liked it. He liked the form factor. Really, really appealed to him because it was light and it was small and it took really good images. Agreed. Both Pentax and Nikon, on both Nikon lenses, they have a lovely solid feel to them, and they're not too big a revolution between infinity and close focus. Very comfortable to use. For the most part, yeah. Occasionally you get one that's an oddity. Any of the macros are outside that, but 99% of them, yeah. It's like they did their homework. Anything from quarter to about 3/4 of a turn. 3/4 is long. But typically when you see them 3/4 turn lenses, the first half of that rotation will only focus the first 2 or 3 feet of focus range. And then after that, you get the quarter revolution is everything else. Hassan says, yeah, they are geared towards video users. but the user interface and the handling is probably the best of any camera. Only downside is the video autofocus. Interesting. Lumix definitely geared the video. Your friend's small kit was probably an M43 or micro four thirds. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was micro four thirds, but the photos look beautiful. Somebody was talking about how that micro four thirds sensor couldn't reproduce, but these images look great. I didn't see a problem with them. Yeah, I've never shot Canon. I've never shot Panasonic. I never shot Olympus. Let me think if there's any other major brands. I've never shot a Hasselblad, of course, or a Zeiss camera. I don't know that they've made one, I think. I've never shot a Leica M. I've messed around with an M. Was it an M10? Messed around with the M10 a little bit, but I didn't take any photos with it. I just didn't like the optical viewfinder is a down for me. You know, on a camera like that, it should have at least the hybrid viewfinder. I mean, I understand their ideology with trying to hold to that M6 idea, but with what the camera costs and the work that goes into making one of them, it should have at least had the choice. You know, you should be able to, like, maybe it has modules you change or something that to where you could either have, I mean, yeah, you can buy that Visiflex thing and stick it in the hot shoe, but yeah, I wasn't intrigued by the whole calibrated focus deal and all that. Nah. Panasonic and Sigma have great small lenses for the L mount for your SL and CL. Yeah, yeah. I've been looking at a couple of them. There's a little tiny woodpecker out here on this tree. I see him. He's so small you can't hear him, but I can see him running up the tree. Yeah, I haven't been shopping for autofocus lenses yet. There's only one that I've been really looking at getting, and that's the 24-90 SL. And I haven't really been in a hurry to get it because the lenses I have, I like. The only reason I was wanting that 24-90 is for travel, because then I have one lens that covers the whole mid-range of photography in a really, really, really nice package, you know, and it's a very rugged design. And, you know, like when we went to Israel in 2019, this is the camera I took. And I took this lens and camera, and I took one other lens, and it was the 200 millimeter f4. I used that lens for 2 photos and didn't even like either one of the photos I took with it, and put it back in the bag. I could have literally not even taken that lens. I took every other photo with this set, the kit lens and the camera, and it worked. It worked wonderfully. So yeah, kit lenses aren't to be laughed at. And Sigma and Panasonic both make stellar lenses now. There's a whole bunch of them little woodpeckers out there. There's one over on this tree too. Might be the same one. I can't tell. They're only about this big. They're small. I hear the 24-90 like MacGyver and Inspector Gadget roll into one. Bass Angler says, what was the lens that Snap Chick tested last week? That was the 90-280. That thing's enormous. It's a beast. You didn't hack it good enough, Ignore. Randy says, I've shot the Olympus Micro Four Thirds since 2014. Works well for me. They're better than people think. Yeah, that's what Randy Myers is using. Oh, it's live. Hi from Russia again. Hi, Igor. Yeah, Brian Andrews says rumor has it is that the Leica, the new 24 to 70 Leica, is made by Sigma, and it is made in Asia. It's marked either made. I think it's marked made in Japan. It's different from the Sigma lens and the Leica Store Miami. Those guys, they do the Red Dot Forum. Was it Dave Farkas and what's the other guy's name? I can't remember right now. They do a live stream pretty often. It's like a 2.5 hour marathon live stream when they do them. But they tested the 24 to 70 against the Sigma and against the Panasonic and against the 24 to 90 German made lens. And of course, the German made one was number one, but that 24 to 70 was number two right behind it. And they said if you didn't look close, you really wouldn't tell the difference in them. You just lose a little focal length. And they said from it to the Sigma, you could see it apparently in the corners that they were different quality levels. Apparently they hold the quality spec to the glass is held to a higher spec than the Sigma is, but it probably is made in the Sigma factory because it is a Japanese made lens. I mean, they're going to use somebody in the Element Alliance, and when you look at the Panasonic lens, it's enormous compared to it. You stand them up side by side, the 24 to 70 Panasonic is like this much taller. They're like here, so you know, if they subcontracted it through Panasonic, then they had to completely tool up just to make this Leica lens. Most likely it's Sigma. Almost guaranteed it's made in their factory. It is made by Sigma, but the elements and coatings are specific to Leica. Yeah, they have their own specs. Yeah, he said, Bassler said that lens blew him away. It's an incredible piece of glass. Well, there's a lot more goes into putting Leica lenses together than people realize. They do a lot of hand fitting and alignment that doesn't happen in mass-produced manufacturing in other places. They also are a boutique manufacturer. In the camera world, they're small potatoes. I mean, they literally market to a specific demographic of people, and they do it on purpose because they know they can't compete with Canon and Nikon. They absolutely, completely understand that they can't fight those juggernauts. And Fujifilm, well, of course, Sony, you know, those four juggernauts in the camera industry dominate the mass production market, and they get that. So they've decided they're going to stick to rangefinders, and kind of like the Pentax company, they have a very loyal user base, and it's interesting to see the mass production people frown upon the Leica owners because it's expensive or it's overpriced. They'll tell them it's overpriced, and it is. I'm going to tell you the truth. It's overpriced. I mean, my SL2 is basically a Panasonic camera. Its heart is made by Panasonic. But you know, it has there's some stuff in there that's made by Leica, but most of the electronics are manufactured by Panasonic for Leica. It's pretty much been proven. I don't know for sure where that data's at on the internet, but I've seen it in places. And you know, because they work as a collaborative effort a lot, and you know, they do their own ergonomic engineering and package it themselves in the casing or whatever, but then they market it to a very specific demographic of photographer, and it works for them, you know, and they price them deliberately expensive because what they're trying to do is create, what's the word, scarcity. It's a way of capitalism, and I can't remember the exact term, I'm at a loss for it right now. Um, it's almost like manufactured scarcity. So they don't manufacture a lot of any lens or a lot of any camera. So they're always out of this or that, or the camera stores. You know, they have Leica boutiques everywhere. So you'll hear that the Leica boutique in Boston is getting in 3 50 millimeter Noctilux lenses or whatever, you know. And since they're only getting 3, if you want one, you best buy it. You know, even though it's some kind of ludicrous amount of money, if you want one, you better buy it because there's only going to be 3. And it's almost like manufactured scarcity. And they're masters of it. You know, it's interesting how they do it. But then on the flip side of that coin, they're doing everything to make the product the best it can possibly be. It's like the highest quality everything. And it surprised me when that 24-70 came out. You know, that actually surprised me because they're trying to appeal to a little bit of that mass production demographic. And that shocked me. Knowing that all this time up to now, they're working on a deliberate niche, you know, the well-financed consumer who basically has a lot of disposable income and really isn't afraid to spend it on what they want. They're literally appealing to that demographic. They really are. And they got into photojournalism way back when with the rangefinders, with the M2 or something like that. And the bulk of those photojournalists continue to use Leica film cameras all the way through. And even today, some of them still do. You know, it's interesting to see that. Manufactured exclusivity, that's a good way of saying it, yeah. Let's see. That can happen, nothing wrong with Sigma though. They make pretty good glass, and if people don't like it, they don't have to buy it. That's true. A lot of Leica Uber fanboys went nuclear. It was funny to see, yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, Sigma makes good stuff. I've had a couple of Sigma lenses over the years. That sounds like the news over here. Isn't it funny how our governments hate each other, but the average people get along great? Yeah, isn't it? You know, I think there's some manufactured conflict there. I don't think everybody hates each other as much as the governments of the world want them to. Totally agree. Both Sigma and Tamron are highly underrated in my opinion. Tamron more so. Dude, Tamron has brought their A game in the last few years. That 24-70 Tamron Gen 2, I like buying Nikon lenses, but it's hard for me to justify that new Nikon 70-200 FL when that Tamron is as good as it is, and it's a third of the price. That Tamron lens, because Ray Soldano bought one. He put it on a Z6 II body, and the images coming out of that thing are mind-boggling. He nicknamed it his cheater setup. He literally just pointed it, hits the focus, fires the shutter, and it's a perfectly in-focus photo that has beautiful color. And as he put it, I think he called it his cheater lens because it worked that well. I mean, it's hard to argue with that. The hat says, Leica's high pricing is very much prestige marketing, but they do build things well enough that it can be justified. The user experience of them is just wonderful. Yes, I agree. Yeah, that's exactly it. They deliberately go over the top with the design and the manufacture on purpose. And occasionally they let a lemon out. One will sneak out somehow occasionally, even though everything's hand built. You know, you'll see somebody will get a 50 millimeter M lens, and the focus throw won't be as smooth as they think it should be or something. But But they do this extreme, like, ergonomics stuff, like the tactile response of the aperture ring clicks and the button press, the feel of the button press, and the rebound pressure of the buttons. They factor all that crap in. It's insanity how much ergonomic engineering goes into their product. I mean, I love shooting with my Leica cameras, even though they're basically crippled compared to my Nikon camera bodies. I love getting them out. The Nikon bodies straight up have more functionality. My D810 has more external functionality than my SL2, hands down. And I love shooting the SL2 because it just feels good to use it. I don't know why. It's hard to quantify it. It really is. It's strange to me. But if I want a gun, like how do they analogize it? From like a Glock to a hand-built 1911 made by Bill Wilson himself, a Bill Wilson custom. They both fire bullets. The Glock is basically the Chevrolet. The Bill Wilson custom is the Rolls Royce. They both do the exact same job, and it's the same way. So my D810 is my Chevrolet, and it works every single time. It's bomb-proof, But the Leica, it's like the Rolls Royce. Bass Angler says Wilson Combat is only an hour from here. Oh, you suck, dude. It's one of my dream guns. I never bought one. It's a Bill Wilson custom. Car analogy is bang on. That lens she had just blew me away. I'd never seen micro contrast like that, and I believe Nikon. I'm gonna tell you, if you watch, there's a couple of videos that were the engineer that was over lens design for the SL line talks about the quality that they put into the lenses for those into the glass for those lenses. One is done by the what's his name, Hugh Brownstone. He interviewed that guy at one of the Photokinas or whatever, that Camera Plus or whatever they hold in New York. I think he interviewed him there. And there's another interview by another YouTuber that done basically the same interview. And I don't remember who that was now. But both of those interviews are very telling as to how much effort they put into those lenses. And all of those SL lenses are like that. All the primes are even better than those zoom lenses you saw. The primes all use the same housing to simplify manufacture, but the build on the inside is unique to each focal length. But you'll look, and the 28, the 35, the 50, and the 75, I think it is, all look the same externally. But on the inside, they're all different, of course. But they talk about like how they measure micro contrast or measure contrast with line pairs per millimeter, and how the industry standard is like 30 or 40, so they did 60, and it just goes to show how they're trying to push the envelope. Tell, how you doing? Thank you for stopping by. Yes, and it's at a time of day when you're not getting ready for bed. What time is it there? Oh, it's about 7, isn't it? Come home back out. I Am Hassan says, I hear Leica R lenses are the hidden gems of the Leica world. They're the stepchild of Leica. And it's bizarre to me because, like, even the Red Dot Forum guys don't want to talk about them for some reason. It's really strange to me how that works. 1900, yep, 7 o'clock. They constantly get comments in their live streams about do a special on R-mount lenses, and they won't do it. They utterly refuse to do it for some reason. And I think it mainly because it has to do with the fact that they know they're going to go down the road of the unanswerable questions, which is 2 cam, 3 cam, R only, ROM. there is like 4 or 5 generations of R mount lenses. And because of that, they're not backwards compatible either. So every time they come out with a new generation, it only works with that generation and newer cameras. And it caused a bunch of hurt feelings with the Leica R camera owners, you know, the R3, R4, R5, all those guys. And I think the original Leica Flex CL, no, just the Leica Flex was the very first one. But all those cameras, those SLR film cameras, all the way to I think the R9 was the last one. They had backwards compatibility issues throughout the generations, and because of that, it created a bunch of hurt feelings. and I think they're not wanting to get into that because it's just going to turn into a flame war in the comments if they do, you know. But as adapted lenses, they're beautiful. I've got two different generations of Leica R lenses right now. I got a 50mm Summicron that's it's a 3-cam, and I've got I got 3 different ones that are 2-cam, which are olders. They're all made in the late 60s, and then that Summicron is mid-90s, and they're glorious. It's a beautiful lens. It really is. I hated that I jacked up my 50mm 2-cam. I love that lens. Matt Granger, I think you meant. I do. I'm lost on the Matt Granger comment. He might have been the one that interviewed him. Yeah, it might have been him. There was 2 different people talk to that engineer, and I watched both videos, and they were very similar interviews. They did hit some different points, but that was a very interesting thing to get to see, was to talk to him about the engineering into the SL lenses. The SL lenses are basically the pinnacle of Leica glass, even better than the S lenses. If you don't know anything about Leica cameras, they have about 4 different lines, 4 or 5. Okay, they have the L mount, you know that, we're all talking about that. Then they have the S mount, they have the M mount, they have the R mount, and there might be another one. Well, of course, they got their cinema lenses too, but the S mount is their pro grade, and those camera bodies can be 20 grand. That S, I think they make an S3 now. There's like an S1, S2, and S3. You buy them second-handed, and they're still 8 or 10 grand. But they're huge. They're medium format, or technically, they're bigger than full frame by a little bit. But they use these enormous S lenses, and you can adapt those to the SL line, but they're very expensive. But those cameras, like I said, those are for like working pros that do like very specific photography. You don't see just the average Joe buying an S, a Leica S. It's just not happening. You just don't see it. The M is their most prolific. Everybody that shoots Leica knows about an M, or has at least messed around with one a little bit. But the R it's the ugly stepchild of Leica. And like I said, if you're adapting lenses, it don't matter. It's still the same quality glass. It's still a 50mm Summicron. It's just in a different package with a different bayonet. And you can save significant money if you want Leica glass. Look at their R mount stuff. It's still more expensive than Nikon, way more. But you can get into it for a lot less than you can M lenses. A lot less. Even the boys at Red Dot Forum use a few Leica R mount lenses in their stuff. Like they use the R mount macro lenses, because I don't think the M's have a macro lens. I'm pretty sure it don't. And I don't think there's an SL lens that's a macro lens yet. I believe you can only use an R mount if you want Leica brand. I mean, my Nikon macro lenses look wonderful. The 105 macro, I got a really old one, is a stellar lens. You're saving up for one. Which one are you saving up for? The CL. CL's awesome in my book. I like the CL. Form factor, size, weight. The only hitch is the battery life is terrible. Even with Leica batteries, terrible. I have 5 batteries for mine. It's that bad. If I go out for the whole day, I turn it off unless I'm thinking I'm going to get a shot, and I'll go through 3 or 4 of them in a full long day of just being out. Their battery life sucks. If you leave it on, it goes into sleep mode or standby mode or whatever after it sets for so many seconds. It shuts off the displays and all that jazz so it saves power. It'll still be dead in an hour, hour and a half, even then. So yeah, be prepared. The battery life is terrible. I don't know what they do about power management that's so messed up, but yeah. But you can get aftermarket batteries for the CL. And I have 2 or 3 aftermarket batteries, and they work just as good as the Leica batteries. And they say Panasonic makes the same battery footprint, what do you call that, the model style or whatever. You can get it in a Panasonic battery too, and it's significantly cheaper. But I just bought they were on Amazon. You just put in Leica CL battery, and it shows the aftermarket batteries. And I want to say they're Wasabi Power, maybe. They come with a charger, and they work exactly the same. Exactly the same. The SL2 is a different story. Those batteries, I only have 2 of them, and those batteries you have to buy off Leica. Currently, there is no aftermarket for the SL2 battery, and they're stupid expensive. Like, I'm almost ashamed to say they're $270 something a piece for one of them. Crazy expensive. When I bought this camera, it came with 2 and the charger. The beauty of the SL2 though is you can charge it through USB, like you can Nikon Z cameras, but you can't charge the CL. It has no external ports. They eliminate all that to make the footprint of the camera smaller, so you can't in-camera charge the CL. You have to have a charger. Yeah, the original SL, it's full frame and it's bigger. If he's wanting the small footprint, no, almost $300 a battery. $200 would be a deal. I'd buy some of them at $200. Because seriously, I think they're $275 is what I've seen. They're crazy expensive. Because I have a Lumix S5. He already has an SL. I didn't see. What was this? Did you guys see the hit job the Angry Photographer did on the ZFC? No. Do I need to really sit down and watch this video? Oh, if you haven't done it yet, hit the thumbs up. Let's see if we can get at least 10 off this segment instead of just the however many we had on version 1. Yeah, those. I'll watch this video if I need to. I'm curious to see, but I know what he's going to do. He's going to say, "Oh look, Nikon's copying Fujifilm, my favorite." I can see where this is going. Brian Andrews says he's saving up for the Deluxe. Nice. Deluxe is pretty nice. They've got another little. It's a little point and shoot, kind of like the Sony's new ZV cameras. It ain't. I don't think it's a Deluxe. It might be. Is that the one I'm thinking of? It's got the lenses attached to the camera. It's not an interchangeable lens, but it's a really nice little point and shoot camera. I don't remember what its model name is. I have a friend in Atlanta. She's got one. Yeah, she likes it. Takes beautiful photos for her. I can't remember the model name, but it's a. I was going to get one just to like carry on vacations because it's small and it's, you know, it's a point and shoot. But the CL does the same thing, so I just carry the CL. Oh yeah, yeah. I don't watch Ken anymore. I haven't watched one of his videos in months, if not since last summer. Uh, the one that broke the back for me was the straw that broke the camel's back was he was talking about a release last summer, and he literally just started repeating himself. After about 2 minutes in, he had said all of the useful wording, language, content, whatever it's called, and he just started saying the same sentences just over and over and over, and I was just like, I'm done with this. I haven't watched one since. And uh, I haven't watched but two of Fro's videos. I got tired of him just basically bashing the Nikon camera just for the fun of bashing Nikon. You know, basically, I don't understand why he does what he does, but, you know, it's like he's only there. I don't know. I just don't know. But I don't watch his videos anymore either. Um, and it got to be to where it was more jokes than actual content. So I just got tired of the nonstop attempts at humor. You know, he does all those little cut scenes with clips out of other videos and YouTube movies and stuff. And I mean, that's his style. He can do what he wants, but it just doesn't interest me. As far as the Northrops go, I ain't got a real problem with them. It's just that I've kind of lost interest in his ideology and mine don't coincide, and he feels like he's right. I give him that credit. He's entitled to feel any way he wants. I mean, there's nothing illegal about that. It's just that I don't agree with a lot of the things he says. So I just quit watching him too. He got to be more about commercials. Let me check and see what Teresa's saying. Let's see what's happening here. Let's see if I can get this to work. Maybe that worked. Looks like it's still on. Okay. Let's see. Yep, okay. Hassan says, yeah, David, Nikon is an easy target now. I have pared down drastically my photography subs on YouTube. The camera will perform if you'll use it. Like you're using a Panasonic. Panasonic makes wonderful cameras. If you watch Casey at Camera Conspiracies, every camera is substandard. You know that, but now his deadpan humor is kind of funny. But you know, you can find fault in any brand, and I honestly think it's because Nikon quit doing the whole paid trips for the large video or large YouTube community crowds and large Instagrammers. They pulled the plug on all that stuff, and because of that, all of those YouTubers decided they wasn't gonna like play nice with them anymore, or they're trying to leverage them. Yeah, the video that sunk it for me with Tony Northrup was when he said something about they were releasing one of the newer cameras. I don't remember if it was the Z50 or the Z6II or whatever last summer, and he said they need to do something to get us excited. That's the way he phrased it. It's the video's out there. You can look it up and find it. But he was. I don't know if he was talking about a release or, you know, a press announcement or something. But he implied with his statement, to me, this is the way I interpreted it, was his implication was that unless the camera companies courted the influential or large YouTubers or whatever, that they wasn't going to be able to sell cameras. You know, and I thought, no, you've done stepped over the line as far as I'm concerned. That's the way I read it. He might not have meant it that way, but he wasn't clear in saying, I didn't mean it that way. He just let it go there. It's like at the very end of the video, he said they've got to do something to, you know, to get us excited. And he was talking about YouTubers, not photographers. And that's exactly the way I took it. And I thought, no, you done stepped over the line. You know, it's not about getting you excited. It's about getting people that want to take pictures excited. You know, I was done with him at that point. But what are you gonna do? So I unsubscribed and moved on about my day. Jacob Jerg says, photog YouTubers that don't show their own photos are not worth all that much. I know of one YouTuber who practically has shown 0 photos. Phil likes his new Nikon all over it like a rash. He was. Phil gets excited about his new gear. He likes it. That's why he does all them unboxing videos. He's wanting to share his excitement with you guys. Phil's cool. He's got himself in a groove. He's cranking some videos out, like 3 a week, and he's trying to balance it. You know, he's really enjoying the whole making YouTube videos. He's really gotten in the groove of it. I'm missing my comments. Padding the video length for the YouTube algorithm. I can't stand that. I haven't done it. I've done it once or twice at the end of a video where the video will literally land at like 9 minutes, 54 seconds. And at one point, 10 minutes was the magic number for mid-rolls or some kind of advertising rule. So you wanted your videos to be a little over 10 minutes. So I'll drop a black frame in that would be 7 seconds long of dead space at the end of the video, just so it would be 10 minutes, 1 second. I've done that a couple times, but most of the time, the chips fall where they may. Yeah, and you know, if it's 7 minutes, 43 seconds, that's what it is, you know. I try my best to cut out the repetition, and occasionally it slips by me. I do my best to remove the redundant statements. I don't like it either, so, you know, it typically works out to where my videos land at 12 minutes regardless for some reason. It's like, if you average them all, they seem to be at like 12 minutes. I don't know why. I guess I like to talk that much. But I just did one today that's going to be coming out in a few weeks. It's 9 photos of Reno, Nevada. I went out while we were there. Sierra did rock climbing nationals, and I went out one night after sundown because I wanted to get the lights of the city, because there's a lot of lights in Reno. It's kind of like Las Vegas, but scaled way down. And I just wanted to walk around with a tripod and a camera and do long exposures of lights and get nice sun star effects because I could stop down the lens. And I shot 28 millimeter, shot a vintage Pentax Asahi 28 f3.5 adapted to the SL2 on a tripod, and done like 15-second exposures on some of them. Some of them are 20 seconds, some of them are 8. Just depending on how much light was in the frame, I'd adjust shutter speed only and run base ISO and stopped it all the way down on the camera. But that video's coming, but it's only like 7 minutes. It just worked out like 6, 7 minutes and so many seconds or something, you know. But yeah, padding the runtime annoys me too. It just does. Nikon's an easy target. Padding the runtime. Hassan says the deluxe cameras are great little cameras, and they are. Yeah, Hassan says, yeah, I'm done with that guy. He was totally off target and spread untrue info. The problem is so many of his fans are parroting his non-info on forums. Yeah. I don't know why all the YouTubers that have over 100,000 subscribers are gunning for Nikon. It's kind of bizarre to me. It's almost like they're trying to shut them down or something. There. Piano Man 6639. Hi, David. Really enjoying the stream. All the best from the UK. Glad you're here. Dude, the UK is awesome. That's cool. Tony, I gave up as well, non-stop plugging his books. Oh, the book commercials. Now, they're not big on presets. Fro was the big preset king. He wants to say Skittles and all that jazz, which, you know, people like presets. Buy them. I mean, it's free America. You're not obligated to buy their presets or their book. I thought it was kind of cool. I gotta throw a bone to Tony and Chelsea. It was kind of cool when they hit 1 million subs. They gave their book away as an ebook for free, and I downloaded it because I wanted to see the book layout. Because, I mean, I'm not going to learn a lot. I'll learn a little. I mean, there's probably some information in there I didn't know, but I looked through it, and you know, it was the pay what you can campaign or something, you know, but they gave the book away for a while. It was just an open download on their site. And I thought that's pretty cool that they did that. And I looked through it, and the book is really well done. They spent a lot of time and energy building that, stunning digital photography book. It's really well done. I got to give him some credit there. For a beginning photographer, it's not a bad book. I got to give him some credit. But, you know, I haven't looked at it in however many years since he's done the download thing. It may still be on my phone. I don't even know. I'd have to look. But yeah, it was well laid out, and it's got, you know, and it's very graphically oriented, where you got lots of like diagrams and charts and photos to reference, and it's really well done. Yeah. I almost sound like I'm padding my own runtime there, saying that more than once. Oh, yeah, they do that, and the Squarespace ads, the non-stop Squarespace ads. Oh, which I get it. They've basically, you know, they're untraditional photographers. They were doing stock photography before stock photography was big, and then they rode that wave in, and then stock kind of crashed, and they were doing the YouTube channel, and now the YouTube channels took off, and that's their job, is YouTube. It's not photography, it's YouTube. When you get to that level, it's a full-time job. They have a staff that, you know, they pay to produce content. They're not just photographers like me that makes a video. You know, they're YouTubers, full scale, all in. You know, I mean, I don't make enough money in ad revenue to like laugh at hard. So to me, this is a hobby. It really has to be, because if I didn't, I'd go crazy. That's kind of why there wasn't a video last Wednesday, and there's not a video this Wednesday. I've backed off of the 2-a-week content because I spent an innate amount of time editing my videos and collecting content and planning and writing all these notes and script information so I could remember things for videos, and then finding cool locations. And it wound up, I spent all my free time to make 2 videos a week. And it's like, seriously, like the revenue for my channel is like $80 a month, you know, and I have over 400 videos on the site. So the algorithm doesn't like the way I do things or something. And because I don't get any traction, it really penalizes me for some reason. So it is what it is. So, but yeah, so I backed it off from 2 a week to 1 on every Saturday. And if I can get a live stream in midweek, then I'll do a live stream. And if I can do some little 2-minute something with my phone, I'll upload it maybe. So, you know, you'll just start seeing sporadic stuff happening in the week. And then Saturdays is going to be my release day. And I've got stuff scheduled for Saturday all the way into September right now. But it's just, I had to look hard at what was I chasing with my YouTube channel. I've done vectored into a totally different subject. But yeah, that's why I'm not producing midweek content now, is I just had to step back and look, and it's like, man, I'm spending so much time and energy making these videos, and I'm getting like $80 a month, $20 a week, is what it's paying me to do this. And what can I do? I could mow yards and make more than $20 a week, and the investment to get into the game would be a lot less, But yeah, I like doing it. It's just that I have to be realistic with myself, Let's see what we got here. Bass Angler said Tony and Chelsea burn on Nikon, but every time they go shoot birds, Chelsea has a D850 and a 600 millimeter F4. That's really odd, isn't it? Maybe because it works. And they've got, $14,000 sunk into that 600 millimeter lens, and they need to get their investment back out of it. But Adrian Alfred down in Australia, he shoots a D850 and has gorgeous photos, just absolutely gorgeous photos. So, yeah, I mean, and he can't find a reason to upgrade to a Z camera. His D850 still outperforms everything that he's looked at, so he's waiting on a Z camera that can outperform his D850 before he upgrades. I can't say that I blame him. Uh-oh, what's this say? Okay. There. Hey, I figured out I can text. I just sent a text message. I don't know what it looked like on camera, but let's see. The song says, Bass, that is what makes me scratch my head too. They used to bash Micro Four Thirds too, yet shoot their show on GHs. Yes, and they've always filmed their shows. I think they might have some Z cameras now, but they use the GH, what? The GH7, GH9. But yeah, they always filmed on the Panasonics. That's true. I just got my new D850D. Brilliant. What? Actually put a Tokina 100mm macro f2.8. Great combination. Wow. I don't know what the 850D is, or is it a D850? Sigma just dropped the 150 to 600 for mirrorless. Wow. That's pretty sweet. That's a lot of lens. I mean, I kind of cheat. I kind of like the prime lens for wildlife. I don't normally shoot big enough wildlife to need the zoom, because normally the animal is too far away and you end up wanting to crop regardless. So it works out that I'll take the Z6 or the D810 and the Z50, and I'll look at it through the D810, and if it's still a little tiny in a big frame, I'll just move the lens over to the Z50, which makes it look like a 750 millimeter lens, since you're cropping the center out. But the pixel density is so high, it's higher than the D810's 36. So it works that I can actually, basically it's almost like zooming, but I typically end up just running the Z50 F to Z and the 500 f5.6 phase Fresnel, whatever. When I did all my little wildlife photos in Costa Rica, the second trip, that's the only way I rolled. I always take two bodies. I don't remember. Oh, I took the CL and the Z50 to Costa Rica the last trip. And the first trip, I took the Z6 and the Z50. And I wound up vlogging with the Z6 because the Z50 works so well for wildlife. I thought that IBIS in the sensor would help more handheld, and it would get you more stable shots, but you were still cropping, and it's only 24 megapixels. So you just go ahead and use 21 on the Z50. It's basically the same image, but with 750 millimeter field of view in essence. It just seemed to work really well with that higher pixel density Z50 sensor. It just did the magic, dude. Those photos turned out amazing for me. And then I haven't gotten Topaz yet to see how well it actually cleans up the noise in the photos and sharpens them up, but I'm pretty sure I can get the feather detail back if I was to do that. But I don't know that I need the feather detail because I have a good bit, and I'm thinking about printing a photo book of my wildlife in Costa Rica, mainly for me, but I'll be printing it in probably a 10 by 10 or 12 by 12 photo book, so the images won't be even that big. They'll be scaled down slightly to fit on the page. Probably don't need it. Okay, I'm making sure I ain't missing it. I have a Lumix 70 to 300 millimeter. Went with that for the extra reach over the 200. The Sigma is tempting, but my only use is hobby wildlife stuff as my kids are done with high school sports. Yeah, that's Brian. I had the 150 to 500 Sigma for a while, but I couldn't get sharp photos with my D810 out of it. So I sold it and bought the 2 to 500 Super Zoom, and immediately saw an improvement in image quality. Immediate for me, because I'm shooting handheld, and the stabilization in the lens, the VR in that 200 to 500 works so well that I can get sharp handheld photos with that thing at 500 millimeters on the D810. It just worked. And so I shot it for a number of years. It's a great lens. I did all sorts of stuff with that lens. I'd take wildlife, like wildflower pictures. It does a great job at separating the background. If you get within about 10 or 12 feet of the flower and take a photo of it, the background just melts. It's just beautiful. There's a couple photos on my web pages that I took with the 2 to 500 like that, and it does. It actually works great for a portrait lens. If you rack it down to 200, it just seems to work really well. The resolution on it is great. It's a great lens. I haven't shot with it in a long time. Since I got the 500, I ain't shot with that 2 to 500 at all. Not one time, actually. I'm just thinking back, trying to think if I've even mounted it on the camera, and I don't think I've even mounted it. I did that, I did a video with the 2 to 500. The last time I remember actually using it was last fall when me and Aaron went and photographed the elk. I photographed those elk with it that time. And then I did a video about how to get closer focus with it, because the close focus distance on that 2 to 500 is like 10 or 12 feet. It's a long way. It's out there, and you can shorten that distance by adding an extension tube. So I did that test to see what you could shorten it with, and you could shorten it pretty significantly. But it also kills your, what do you call it, infinity focus. I found I could only focus so far once you did that. So if you wanted the closer focus, you had to sacrifice infinity. And since I didn't have a pass-through electronic extension tube, I had to manual focus. I don't remember. I've got some of them electric ones, but I don't think they work right. Okay, it's a D850. All right. That's an amazing camera, dude. I almost upgraded to one with my D810 about a month after I got my YouTube channel going. It come out, and my YouTube channel had been going just a few months, and I made a video that said the main reason not to get a D850, and it was that for the price of the new D850, you could buy a secondhand D810 and 4 or 5 lenses, extra batteries. I had a whole pile of stuff laid out that you could get for the same money as a brand new D850 body. So my point was, you could have all of this or just this, you know, and that's actually, to this day, is my best performing video ever. Bass Angler, I remember that video. It got the most views of any video on my channel ever. Like 50-something thousand views. Jacob says, I remember that video saved me a lot of money. Good. Yeah, that was right after I started the channel. It came out that fall. I was filming at that point. I think I was filming with might have been a Sony. I think I had the Sony. Was it not the R? Ah, crap. What's them Sony bodies? It was like something 2. It was a Gen 2 of whatever that Sony was. I can't remember those model names now. That's sad. I know so little about Sony cameras, but I have had a Sony. I can't say that I've never shot Sony because I did. And I liked it pretty well. I just didn't like the menus. The menus are horrific. Joe Edie says, probably the only Canon shooter in the room. I love learning about all the brands, though. Yeah. Yeah, I've never owned a Canon camera of any kind, ever. Making sure. No, I've never owned a Canon of any kind. I've had quite a few Nikons now. I had the one Sony. And it was a good camera, but it just was, like I said, the menus drove me mad. I couldn't find anything in that menu. I had 2 Leicas. Actually, I've had 3 Leicas now. I sold the, wasn't it SL, what was it? It's a little pocket camera by Leica that takes the L-mount lenses. I just had it 3 months ago. Can't remember the model name now. It's a little flat, low profile one. It's neat. It doesn't have a viewfinder. It has only the screen on the back. And that's why I got rid of it. I couldn't see it. The TL, yeah. It was one of the ones I sold to get the SL2. I like having the EVF because then I can see what I'm framing. I thought I would like that form factor because you can just look at it and take pictures, kind of like shooting with your iPhone, but it just didn't work. I was constantly having to crane my neck to see through my reading glasses to see the screen, and that just doesn't work. I mean, yeah, if you've got good eyes or you can see up close good or you've got corrective lenses that doesn't require bifocals to see up close, it's a great camera. And you can add that VisuFlex removable EVF to it, but I really wasn't interested in doing that. It's almost 3 o'clock. We went 92 minutes on the second stream. Amazon says, OPS, OPCS. He says, old person camera syndrome. No, there it is, Bass Angler. It wasn't an A7R2, it was just an A7 II. That's what it was. It wasn't an R or an S, it was just the A7 II is what I had, because it was the first year they had IBIS. That's the reason I bought it, because I wanted that IBIS. And it worked. I could shoot photos at ridiculously slow shutter speeds, and they'd be in focus and sharp. But it was what got me into adapting lenses. I have a whole bunch of Sony to something adapters. Probably need to back sell them on eBay. Any of you guys shoot with Sony? That uses the, was it the A mount? E mount? Whatever the A7 series mount is. I have a bunch of those adapters. First person to email me at georgiaphotog@gmail.com and ask for them and give me a valid mailing address, I'll send them to you. How about that? There's your giveaway. Let's see here. Nice. 500 millimeters, sweet. All right, well, this has been a really good second stream, guys. I've really had a good time. I got to get offline because I've got to go to Chattanooga and link up with the girls. We're going to go eat supper this evening, I think, at Sushi Nabe. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I'm glad that we've actually had a mid-afternoon session where I could get the European people involved. It's pretty rare that I get the opportunity to get online this early in the day. I really appreciate you guys. It's been wonderful. So until next time, yeah, thank you, Hassan. Get your camera out and go take a picture with it, all right? So we'll see y'all later. Take care. Thank you, Jacob, and you, Brian, and Tell. I'm seeing them populate, so thank you. We'll see y'all soon. Bye-bye.